My husband did not come to Thanksgiving because of a migraine. That was the official story. That was the story he gave me at 9:13 that morning, while standing in our bedroom doorway wearing sweatpants, a gray t-shirt, and the expression of a man suffering nobly. One hand pressed against his temple. The blinds were half closed. His voice was low and strained, the voice he used when he wanted me to feel guilty before I had even done anything. "Claire," he said, "I don't think I can make it." I was sitting at the vanity, putting on mascara, already dressed in the green wrap dress my mother loved because she said it made my eyes look brighter. Downstairs, 2 pumpkin pies sat cooling on the counter. A casserole dish of sweet potatoes was wrapped in foil. My contribution to Thanksgiving was ready. My shoes were by the door, and I had been looking forward to one peaceful holiday with my family after months of feeling like my marriage had become a room where someone had slowly turned out the lights. I turned and looked at him. "You were fine last night." It came on around 4. "A migraine?" He winced at the word as if it hurt him. "A bad one." Mark had migraines sometimes. Real ones, I thought. He would lie in the dark with a cold cloth over his eyes and refuse coffee, which was how I knew he was truly ill because Mark treated coffee like a constitutional right. When he had a migraine, I took care of him. I brought water, medicine, crackers, silence. I rearranged plans. I defended his absence. So that morning, even though something in me tightened, I softened automatically. "Do you need me to stay?" I asked. He hesitated for exactly half a second. That half second later became important. "No," he said. "No, you should go. Your mom has been cooking for days. I'd feel worse if you missed it because of me." That sounded considerate. It was not. It was permission designed to make suspicion feel cruel. I walked over and touched his forehead. He did not feel feverish. His skin smelled faintly of aftershave, though he said he had been sick since 4. He closed his eyes dramatically when my fingers brushed his temple. "Light hurts," he murmured. "I'll bring you a plate. Maybe just leave it in the fridge when you get back. I might be asleep." "Okay." He opened one eye. "Tell your mom I'm sorry." "I will." "And Claire?" "Yes?" "Don't let your sister make jokes about me bailing. I really can't handle noise today." There it was, the second hook. Not only was I supposed to excuse him, I was supposed to manage how others reacted to his absence. "I'll handle it," I said. He gave me a grateful smile. I kissed his cheek. He turned his face slightly so my lips landed closer to his jaw than his mouth. I noticed. I noticed everything by then, but noticing and admitting are different things. I left the house at 10:02 with pies, sweet potatoes, and a guilt I had not earned. 3 hours later, my phone buzzed while my uncle was carving turkey. Motion detected. Front hall camera. At first, I ignored it. The nanny cam sent alerts all the time. Our front hallway camera was tucked inside a little wooden birdhouse on the entry table, angled toward the door and stairs. We had bought it after a package thief hit the neighborhood, and I kept it because my niece sometimes stayed with us, and my sister liked knowing I had cameras near the exits. Usually the alert meant a delivery, a shadow, a passing car reflected in the glass. Then a second alert came. Motion detected. Living room camera. That one made my fork stop halfway to my plate. The living room camera was not supposed to catch anything, unless someone came inside. My mother's dining room was loud around me. My cousins argued about football. My father asked who wanted dark meat. My sister Becca was laughing with her husband near the kitchen island. Someone had burned the rolls, but everyone was pretending not to smell it. I unlocked my phone under the table. The front hall feed opened. There was Mark. Standing perfectly upright. No hand to his temple. No squinting. No cold cloth. No migraine posture. He wore dark jeans and a navy sweater I had bought him for our anniversary. His hair was wet, combed back from a shower. He checked his watch, glanced toward the stairs, and opened the front door before the person outside could ring. A woman stepped in. Young, blonde, red coat, black heels. I knew her. Tara Vance. Mark's secretary. No, not secretary. He had corrected me once. Executive assistant. She was 26, ambitious, pretty in a sharp way, and always overfamiliar when she called his phone during dinner. On the screen, Mark smiled. Not politely, not professionally, the smile of a man greeting what he had been waiting for. Tara stepped inside, dropped a glossy gift bag by the door, and wrapped both arms around his neck. He kissed her, in my front hall. under the framed wedding photo where Mark and I stood laughing beneath a shower of rice 7 years earlier. The room around me fell away. Sound became distant and watery. My uncle's knife scraped the carving board. Someone asked me to pass the cranberry sauce. My phone felt too heavy in my hand. On screen, Tara pulled back and said something. I turned on audio. Her voice came through tiny and clear. "Happy Thanksgiving, boss." Mark laughed. "Don't call me that here." "Why? Afraid your wife's cameras can hear?" He looked directly toward the birdhouse. For one terrifying second, I thought he knew. Then he smirked and said, "She barely knows how to change the Wi-Fi password." Tara laughed. I froze. That sentence hurt almost as much as the kiss. Not because it was true. Because he needed her to believe it. He wanted me not only betrayed, but diminished. I closed the app. "Claire?" My sister Becca stood beside me, holding the cranberry sauce. "You okay?" I looked up at her. Becca is 3 years younger than me and has never once successfully hidden her thoughts from her face. She saw mine and immediately set the bowl down. "What happened?" she whispered. I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. So I handed her the phone. I watched her watch the clip. Her expression changed from confusion to disbelief, to rage so fast it would have been funny in another life. She looked toward the dining room, then back at me. "Bathroom," she said. We walked down the hall past the family photos, past the coat pile, past my cousin's twins playing with toy cars on the rug. In the guest bathroom, Becca locked the door and gripped my shoulders. "Breathe. I left him home sick." "I know. He asked me to defend him." "I know. He's with Tara." "I know. She asked about the cameras." Becca's eyes sharpened. "Then save everything now." That is why everyone needs at least one sibling or friend who becomes practical during disaster. While I sat on the closed toilet seat shaking, Becca downloaded the clips to my phone, saved them to cloud storage, forwarded copies to herself, and screen recorded the live feed. Mark and Tara had moved to the living room. They sat on my couch, drinking wine from glasses that were part of our wedding registry. Tara had taken off her coat. Mark had his arm around her shoulders. I watched for 15 seconds and then looked away. Becca kept recording. "I'm going to kill him," she said calmly. "No." "Maim?" "No." "Emotionally devastate?" I laughed once, a broken little sound. "Maybe." There was a knock at the bathroom door. My mother's voice came through. "Girls, is everything all right?" Becca looked at me. I could have lied. I almost did. That is the strange habit marriage teaches some women. Protect the image, even when the image is strangling you. Instead, I opened the door. My mother saw my face and said, "Oh, Claire." Mothers know before they know. We ended up in my parents' bedroom. Me, Becca, Mom, and eventually Dad, who came in holding a carving knife until Mom told him to put it down. I showed them the clip. My father went very still. Dad is a quiet man, a retired fire captain. He does not shout when angry. He becomes precise. "Is that your house?" he asked. "Yes." "Is that Mark?" "Yes." "Is that woman from his office?" "Yes." Dad nodded once. "Good, facts first." Mom sat beside me and took my hand. "Baby, what do you want to do?" I did not know. I wanted to drive home and throw them both out. I wanted to crawl into my childhood bed and wake up at 12 years old, before marriage, mortgages, betrayal, and women named Tara existed. I wanted Mark to be sick in bed like he said. I wanted the footage to be fake. I wanted the last 7 years not to rearrange themselves around a new truth. Then another alert came. Kitchen camera. Becca opened it. Tara stood at my kitchen island, eating from a plate Mark had made from the food I cooked. My sweet potatoes. My pie. The meal I meant to bring him because I thought he was alone and hurting. Tara took a bite and laughed. "These are actually good," she said. Mark leaned against the counter. "Claire's useful in the kitchen." Useful. Not talented, not kind. Useful. Something cold and clean moved through me. There are moments when pain becomes fuel, but not the fiery kind. More like electricity. Bright, dangerous, clarifying. I took my phone back. "What do you want to do?" Becca asked. I looked toward the hallway where my extended family was finishing Thanksgiving dinner. People who had asked after Mark kindly. People who had sent him soup when he had the flu. People who had welcomed him every holiday while he joked that my family was a lot. He said my family was too loud for his migraine. I said. Dad's jaw flexed. I stood. Then let's keep things quiet. To understand why I did not simply leave, you have to understand the months before Thanksgiving. Mark had been pulling away slowly, like a tide pretending not to recede. At first, it was work. Late meetings, client calls, emergency filings. Mark worked as operations director for a medical device company, which sounded more dramatic than it was. He managed teams, budgets, vendor contracts, and the personalities of executives who used words like synergy while missing deadlines. Tara had been assigned to him 9 months earlier after his previous assistant retired. She's sharp, he said after her first week. That's good. Very sharp. Ambitious. Also good. She reminds me of myself at that age. I looked at him over my coffee. 26 and blonde? He smiled, but not with his eyes. Driven. After that, Tara became a background character in our marriage. Tara booked my flight. Tara found the file. Tara stayed late. Tara messed up the calendar. Tara fixed the calendar. Tara thinks the restaurant downtown is overrated. Tara says younger consumers hate email. Tara, Tara, Tara. The name became a spoon-tapping glass. When I mentioned it, Mark sighed. Claire, she works for me. I'm allowed to mention my assistant. You mention her more than your best friend. My best friend doesn't manage my schedule. No, but does Tara need to text you at 10:30 at night? His face hardened. You are not going to become one of those wives. Those wives. Suspicious, petty, insecure. The kind of woman men invent so they can dismiss the evidence in front of them. I backed down. That was my mistake. Not because I caused his affair. I did not. But because each time I swallowed discomfort to preserve peace, I taught myself that peace mattered more than truth. Then came the little disappearances. He stopped inviting me to company functions. You'd be bored, he said. He changed his phone passcode. IT policy. He started going to a gym across town. Better equipment. He bought new cologne. Client gift. He criticized my clothes more often. That sweater is a little matronly. He criticized my family. Your mother asks too many questions. He criticized our home. This place always feels cluttered. What he meant, I realized later, was that my life still occupied space he wanted available for his lies. 3 weeks before Thanksgiving, he forgot our anniversary. 7 years. I had made dinner reservations. He came home at 11:15 smelling like expensive steakhouse smoke and said the executive team dinner had run long. When I pointed to the flowers I had bought myself on the dining table, confusion crossed his face before guilt could perform. Oh, Claire. That was all. Oh, Claire. As if I were a spill on the floor. The next morning, a gift appeared on the counter. A bracelet I had never wanted, still in the store bag, receipt folded inside. Purchased at 9:12 a.m. that day. Tara probably reminded him. I did not say that. By Thanksgiving week, I was living with a question lodged under my ribs. Is he cheating? I had not yet answered it because some answers burn down the room they enter. The nanny cam answered for me. Back in my parents' bedroom, with my family eating pie down the hall, I made the first decision of my new life. I would not protect Mark from the truth he had created. But I would be careful. Becca wanted to post the video immediately. Dad wanted to drive to my house. Mom wanted me to call a lawyer. My aunt knocked and asked why everyone was missing dessert. That gave me the idea. Thanksgiving in my family ended the same way every year. Everyone gathered in the living room to watch old home videos my father had digitized. It was corny and predictable. Children groaned. Adults laughed. My grandmother cried at footage of people still alive. Dad insisted tradition mattered. That year, tradition would adapt. I asked Dad if he could connect my phone to the TV. He looked at me for a long second. Are you sure? No. That's honest. I don't want a spectacle. Then what do you want? I thought of Mark saying I barely knew how to change the Wi-Fi password. I want witnesses. Dad nodded. We waited until dessert. I returned to the table. My face must have looked strange because my cousin asked if I was okay. I said I had a headache. The irony almost made Becca choke on whipped cream. People asked about Mark. My Aunt Linda said, "Poor thing, migraines are brutal." I said yes. He seemed very sensitive to light this morning. Becca kicked me under the table, not hard enough to hurt. After dessert, Dad clapped his hands. All right, home videos. Groans, laughter, movement. People carried coffee into the living room. Kids sprawled on the carpet. My grandmother settled into the recliner. Mom stood beside me, one hand on my back. Dad connected my phone to the TV. Before pressing play, I stood in front of the room. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it. Before the old videos, I said, I need to show everyone something from today. The room quieted. Becca stood near the doorway like security. I continued. Mark told me this morning he couldn't come because of a migraine. I believed him. I left him at home to rest. A little while ago, our home cameras sent me alerts. My grandmother leaned forward. I looked at my family, the people Mark had skipped, mocked, and used as an excuse, the people I had almost lied to for his comfort. I'm not asking anyone to react a certain way, I said. I just need you to know why my marriage is ending. Then I pressed play. The front hall filled the television. Mark opened the door. Tara stepped inside. The room went silent. When Tara wrapped her arms around him, my cousin whispered, "Oh my God." When they kissed, Aunt Linda gasped. When Tara said, "Happy Thanksgiving, boss," my grandmother muttered, "Trash." Then came the line, "Why? Afraid your wife's cameras can hear? She barely knows how to change the Wi-Fi password." The room changed. Sympathy became anger. Not loud yet, dense. Protective. The next clip showed Tara in my kitchen eating my sweet potatoes. These are actually good. Claire's useful in the kitchen. My mother made a sound I had never heard from her before. Dad paused the video. Not because he was done, because his hands were shaking. My cousin's husband said, "Play the rest." I shook my head. That's enough. And it was. I disconnected the phone. For a moment, no one spoke. Then my grandmother stood. She was 82 and moved slowly, but the room parted for her like scripture. She came to me, took my face in both hands and said, "You come home tonight." I'm 34, Grandma, and apparently still smarter than the man you married. Pack later, come home tonight. That broke me, not the footage, not the kiss, not the insult. Kindness. I cried so hard my knees weakened. Becca and Mom caught me. My family surrounded me, not with questions, but presence. My aunt took the pies to the kitchen. My cousins distracted the kids. Dad called a friend who was an attorney. Becca called a locksmith. My grandmother sat beside me and held my hand like I was a child again. Mark called at 6:40. I watched his name light up my phone. Then again. Then again. He had probably noticed the cameras were offline because Becca had changed the account password from my phone. At 7:05, he texted, "Where are you?" Then, "We need to talk." Then, "Claire, answer me." Then, at 7:12, "I know you saw something. Do not overreact. Do not overreact." The unofficial motto of guilty men. I handed the phone to Dad. He read it, then passed it back. "Your call." I typed, "All communication goes through my attorney now. Do not be in the house when I arrive tomorrow with witnesses." Mark responded immediately, "Attorney? Are you insane?" I stared at the word insane. For months I had been insecure, dramatic, controlling, one of those wives. Now, with video evidence, I was insane. I did not reply. By morning, Mark had sent 31 texts, 7 voicemails, and 1 email with the subject line, "Misunderstanding." The misunderstanding, according to him, was that Tara had come by because she was having a crisis. The kiss was emotional confusion. The food was nothing. His comment about the Wi-Fi was a joke. His migraine had been real, but had improved unexpectedly. He had not told me because he did not want to ruin my family dinner. He had ruined my family dinner from another location. Dad, Becca, and my cousin Aaron came with me to the house the next day. Mark was gone, though the air smelled faintly of his cologne. Tara's gift bag still sat by the front door. Inside was a bottle of expensive bourbon and a card. To M. Thankful for stolen moments. T. Becca photographed it before I threw up. We packed essentials: clothes, documents, jewelry, laptop, passport, financial records. I took the camera birdhouse too. Not because I needed it, because it had told the truth when my husband would not. By Monday, I had hired Maren Holt, a divorce attorney recommended by Dad's friend. Maren was calm, direct, and wore red lipstick like punctuation. She reviewed the footage and said, "Useful." Not shocking, not terrible, useful. I liked her immediately. "Do you want the house?" she asked. "I don't know." "Do you want him out of it?" Yes. Good, start there. We started there. The divorce revealed that Thanksgiving was not the beginning of the affair. It was simply the day Mark got careless. Tara had been in my house at least 4 times before. The cameras had older clips stored in the cloud because I had never bothered to clear them. Once, she arrived while I was visiting my mother. Once, during a work conference Mark claimed was virtual. Once, on our anniversary morning, before he bought the apology bracelet. Financial records added their own testimony. Hotel charges. Restaurant bills. A bracelet I had never seen. A weekend spa invoice from a town where Mark claimed to attend a vendor retreat. Mark had used a corporate card for some expenses and reimbursed others through vague categories. That became important when his company got involved. I did not contact his employer. I did not need to. Tara's husband did. Yes, Tara had a husband. I learned that from Marin, who learned it from the private investigator Mark forced me to hire by lying badly. Tara Vance was married to a quiet accountant named Daniel, who had apparently suspected something for months. When pieces of the Thanksgiving footage reached him through someone in my extended family who knew someone who knew him, he requested the clips formally through his attorney. I allowed it. With boundaries. Daniel sent me one email. I'm sorry we are connected by this. Thank you for not letting them make fools of us in private anymore. I cried when I read that. Not because of him. Because I understood exactly what he meant. Within 2 weeks, Mark's company opened an internal investigation. Tara was his direct subordinate. Their relationship violated policy. Expense reports were reviewed. Calendar records were pulled. People who had ignored whispered office gossip suddenly remembered details with impressive clarity. Mark was placed on administrative leave. Tara resigned. Then Mark's tone changed. At first, he was angry. You humiliated me. You weaponized private footage. You turned your family against me. Then, when the company investigation began, he became pleading. Claire, please. My career could be destroyed. We can work this out quietly. I made a mistake. A mistake. A mistake is forgetting cranberry sauce. An affair with your subordinate in the home you share with your wife while pretending to have a migraine is a series of decisions wearing cologne. I did not answer directly. Marin did. Her letters were beautiful and the way locked doors are beautiful. Mark tried to blame me in mediation. He said I had become distant. I had prioritized my family over our marriage. I had made the house feel less like a home and more like Claire's museum of sentimental clutter. I looked at him across the conference table and thought of Tara eating my sweet potatoes. Marin put one hand lightly on my arm, a signal not to speak yet. Then she opened a folder. Mr. Dawson, she said, before we discuss emotional narratives, let's discuss reimbursable marital expenditures related to Ms. Vance. Mark's attorney closed his eyes. That was when I knew we would be okay. Not happy yet, not healed, but okay. The settlement took 5 months. I kept more than Mark wanted me to keep. My share of the house equity. Reimbursement for misused marital funds. Half of retirement contributions. My car. My grandmother's jewelry. The kitchen table my father built. The right to walk away without accepting his version of events. Mark kept his wounded pride and a reduced job title after his company allowed him to resign, instead of firing him outright. Tara's marriage ended too, from what Daniel later told Marin. She moved out of state. I never spoke to her. The house sold in spring. Before closing, I walked through it alone. The front hall was empty without the entry table. The framed wedding photo had been removed. Sunlight fell across the floor where Tara's red coat had dripped Thanksgiving rain. In the kitchen, I stood at the island and remembered all the meals I had cooked there, all the times I thought feeding someone meant being loved back. I placed my palm on the counter. Goodbye, I said. Not to the house. To the woman who kept mistaking usefulness for intimacy. My family helped me move into a smaller apartment near the river. Becca labeled boxes with unnecessary honesty. Books, kitchen stuff, emotional damage, weird cables, things Mark was too tasteless to appreciate. My grandmother brought soup. Dad installed shelves. Mom lined the cabinets. My cousins argued over where the couch should go until I told them all to leave it crooked because it was my crooked couch. On my first night alone, I ate cereal for dinner and watched bad television under a blanket. No one criticized the volume. No one texted from another room. No one pretended illness while planning betrayal. The quiet felt strange. Then it felt holy. Thanksgiving came again the next year. I dreaded it for weeks. Grief has anniversaries even when no one dies. Betrayal marks calendars too. My mother offered to skip the holiday entirely. Becca suggested we replace turkey with tacos and call it emotional rebranding. My grandmother said we are not letting that man take stuffing from us. Grandma won. I arrived early with sweet potatoes. For a moment, standing in my mother's kitchen, I remembered Tara eating them from my plate, Mark calling me useful, my hand shaking under the Thanksgiving table. Then Becca walked in, stole a marshmallow from the topping, and said, "These are actually good," in a dramatic imitation of Tara. Everyone froze. Then I laughed. A real laugh. The kind that starts somewhere below the scar and loosens it. Becca looked relieved. "Too soon?" "No," I said, "exactly on time." At dinner my father raised his glass. "To truth," he said. My grandmother added, "and cameras." We drank to both. People sometimes ask if I regret showing my family the footage. I do not. I regret needing to. I regret that my marriage became evidence. I regret that a holiday meant for gratitude became the day I learned exactly how little respect my husband had for me. But I do not regret refusing to carry his secret alone. That is what people like Mark count on. They count on your shame. They count on you confusing privacy with protection. They count on you thinking exposure will embarrass you as much as it embarrasses them. But the truth is, his affair was not my shame. His cruelty was not my shame. His secretary walking through my front door while I defended his fake migraine was not my shame. It was his. And once I understood that, the burden changed hands. The nanny cam did not destroy my marriage. Mark did that. The camera simply refused to let him do it in the dark. Now every Thanksgiving I bring sweet potatoes. Not because I am useful in the kitchen. Because I am good at making them. Because my family likes them. Because I like them. Because one woman's insult does not get to ruin a recipe. Last year, my niece asked why Aunt Becca calls them evidence potatoes. Everyone got quiet. Then my grandmother said, "Because once upon a time, they helped your Aunt Claire find out she was married to an idiot." My niece nodded solemnly. "Good potatoes," she said. "Yes," I told her. "Very good potatoes." Mark sent one final email after the divorce. Subject, Thanksgiving. I almost deleted it unread. Curiosity 1. He wrote that holidays were hard now, that he missed my family's chaos, that he missed my cooking, that he wished we could remember the good years instead of one bad day. One bad day. That is how guilty people shrink a pattern when they want forgiveness without accountability. I did not reply. Instead, I forwarded it to Marin with a note asking whether silence was still legally acceptable. She replied, "Silence is often the most satisfying answer." She was right. I never needed Mark to understand. I needed him to stop having access to me. That is what the footage gave me. Not revenge in the loud sense, though there was satisfaction in watching his lies collapse. It gave me clarity. It gave my family clarity. It gave my lawyer leverage. It gave Mark fewer places to hide. Most of all, it gave me back my own reality. For months, I had felt unreasonable for suspecting, insecure for asking, dramatic for noticing. The camera showed me what my body already knew. I was not crazy. I was not jealous. I was not one of those wives. I was a woman being lied to by a man who mistook my patience for stupidity. He claimed his migraine prevented him from attending my family Thanksgiving. But he was not in bed in the dark. He was at our front door, freshly showered, smiling, letting his secretary into my home. He forgot about the nanny cam. He forgot my family had a TV. He forgot that the wife who makes the sweet potatoes can also save the footage, call the lawyer, change the passwords, and walk away with witnesses. And when he texted me not to overreact, I finally understood. I was not overreacting. I had been underreacting for years. Mark thought a fake migraine would buy him one private Thanksgiving with his secretary. But the camera saw what Claire had been trained to doubt, and once the footage played, his lies had nowhere left to hide.